the run these days. In your car, in class, in front of your computer, your TV. How many of you text while you eat? Okay, great. Thank you. How many of you have ever felt a little bit of stress or anxiety, maybe once or twice in your life before? From school? Okay, great. I think I'm in the right place. So hi, I'm here because 1 out of 5 people in this room, that's 2 people a row, is dealing with some kind of eating issue. Eating disorders, bulimia, food, overworking. These are the latest stats, and they go up, and I always think that they're higher because nobody wants to talk about it. And we all know about the freshman 15, right? Woo! Yeah. It's actually more like the freshman 21, and studies say a lot of people gain some weight in college and then they never get it off. So hi, my name's Elaine, and I am a life coach and a comedian, and I'm an eating disorder survivor, and it's a tough subject, but I promise you we're going to have fun too. Cool? I think when we laugh together, we learn more. So some of you got some Hershey's chocolates under your chair in the front row. We couldn't get it to everybody. Just take the first one out and eat it. Save the second one. We're going to get to that later. And if you didn't get a kiss, come by the booth and I'll explain more later. That was me. My weight went up and down, and that was obviously one of the more up times in my life. How many of you have ever felt pressure to be thinner growing up? Yeah, these are the images we see all the time, right? Oh. In the media? Guys are feeling it more than ever. Abercrombie and Finch, they have people who are naked in the stores in New York. Crazy, right? And I always felt like I was supposed to look like this, even though I'm not genetically capable. I'm short and curvy. Anybody else short and curvy? Woo! Did you know less than 8% of women in the world are able to look like a supermodel, and yet these are the images we see, right? Okay, guys, how many of you have ever wanted to date one? I know you want to raise your hand, dude. It's okay. Anybody? Yeah. Well, it was a trick question because you wouldn't want to date her or her because they're dead. They have eating disorders. They had bodies to die for, and literally that's the price they paid. How many of you have ever hated your body at one time? Thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of self-hatred going on. I know I hated mine, and I was never really huge, but I had what I call a fat head. I would look in the mirror and I would see a distorted body image. Can anyone relate to that picture? That picture says so much to me. See, I grew up in a family where you're supposed to have a small waist, wear lots of makeup, and have big hair. Whoops, big hair. It was Texas, baby. You were supposed to look pretty even if you were just going down the mailbox, sugar. My aunt told me that. So I never felt enough. You know, I never felt my hair was never big enough. I never had enough makeup on. I never felt enough by my family standards. My stepmother used to tell me I was fat. Anybody ever been told that you were fat? Somebody who was probably trying to help, but it hurts, yeah? So I was 6 years old when she put me on my first diet. Yeah. So I grew up on diets. Can anyone relate? Atkins, Jenny Craig, 3 bags a day, college. That was me. Anybody? Cheetos and a bag of Coke. Woo! You're good to go, right? Yeah. I grew up on diets. And when I was 12, I went on a trendy diet. You guys might have heard of it, bulimia. My parents were worried because I had a crush on a girl, Sarah Lee. They caught me, her, and Mrs. Fields hanging out after school. Some kids had boy band posted on the walls. Not me. I had the Keebler Elves. Ernie was the hot one because he could make pecan sandies from scratch. That's my kind of man, right? We love men who can cook, right, ladies? Woo! So yeah, so I grew up in a dysfunctional family. Can anyone relate to that? Yeah. We know about it now, but at the time we didn't talk about it like we have the awareness that we do now in 2011. And there was drinking, there was drugs, there was abuse, so I had no one to talk to, so I turned to food. Food became my obsession and my best friend. I loved it and I hated it. But remember, I felt pressure to be, so I would starve myself during the week. And what do you do when you starve yourself? You obsess about food because you're hungry, right? Anybody ever done that? Yeah. So you become obsessed with it. So anyway, so then on the weekends, I would go in my room and binge. I would sit on the floor by my bed so that if anybody came in, I could hide my food. And I would eat a whole pizza, a whole box of donuts, a whole bag of cakes, cookies, feeling shame and remorse, promising I'll be better on Monday. Anybody ever said that to themselves? I'll go back on Monday. And diets are really just a binge waiting to happen. It's so much deprivation and self-hate. So I did that for a long time, and then when I was 12, I read an article about a singer who had died from taking laxatives. Didn't seem to bother me she had died. All I could think of was she was so skinny. So I tried them. 10 the first time. I was sick all weekend, a slave to the toilet, but I felt skinny, and I got hooked. By the time I was in college, I was up to 25 at one time. I am so lucky to be alive. It's like, wow. So finally, my senior year, I was on the 10-year plan. Anybody 10-year? No? Don't recommend it, but. So I was at home with my roommate, and it just popped out of my mouth. Have you ever just said something you didn't mean to say? It just pops out, and you're like, whoops. And I said, I take laxatives. And my roommate closed her book, and she came over to me, and she put her arms on my shoulders, and she said, Elaine, that's so bad for you. You're hurting yourself. And I got it. I had never felt safe enough to do that because of my family. So I got it, with the love and the non-judgment. And so I started going to therapy and doing 12 steps. I had all three of those: out of control eating, purging, and the obsession, but I have been in denial until I finally had the courage to say it to a loving, non-judgmental person. But the thing that helped me the most going to these meetings and stuff was knowing that I wasn't alone. That there were other people with issues who may be obsessed about food or whatever, and that they were cool. I went to these 12-step meetings, and there were models and actors and jocks and, all kinds of people. They weren't all crazy like in the movies, right? So I'm here because, 23% of college women are dealing with eating stuff. I think the number's higher because nobody wants to talk about it. And we're seeing it start earlier and earlier. 9-year-olds are throwing up. First graders are drinking diet sodas. It's growing, and for men, and unfortunately a lot of guys, men are less likely to seek help. So that's one of my missions, is to spread my story and hopefully give people the courage that if you're having an issue, or you have a friend or a roommate or a brother, a sister, a mother, an aunt, there's resources out there. And we can see why it's sexy to be skinny, right? It's the media. You gotta look good. And we use thin to sell everything, right? It's an obsession for a lot of people. And how many in the diet industry, when I come to your school, billion-dollar industry, not our friends, they want us to keep gaining and losing, so we'll keep buying. And what about this? How many of you guys seen this on the internet, right? Take this pill! Your pounds are just magically going to melt away. Side effects could be heart attack, stroke, anal leakage. Anal leakage! Is that a side effect? You're at a party, you're like, oh, excuse me, I need to go to the bathroom, I have anal leakage! That is a main effect. I think you took one of those. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just playing with you. So cute. So we have a whole group of people obsessed with diet, body, all that stuff. And it doesn't matter if you're a size 2 or size 22. It's about the obsession and the isolation. Don't you hate those skinny women? You're like, oh my God, I'm so fat. You just want to pop them. We all have a friend like that. You're just like, shut up, honey. So it doesn't matter what size you are, it's all about the obsession and the pain, right? And then we have a whole other group of people who are dangerously overweight, right? 23.6 million Americans have diabetes. That number is growing. We know about the childhood epidemic. 85,000 college students, that's 1 on every row, are newly diagnosed with diabetes. And this is not the genetic kind. This is the stuff that comes from food choices. And we all know it's not fun. Sexual dysfunction is not sexy. Heart attack, stroke. But here's the deal. You guys are in school, right? You're smart. How do you lose weight? We all know intellectually how to do it, right? You eat less and you exercise more. We all know that, right? Are you guys with me? That's what I love to talk about. Emotional eating. That's where I come from with this whole eating thing. We've all done it, right? We're human. How many times have you eaten? You come home from school, you're like in limbo land. Should I study? Should I work out? I've got an hour before I have to go do blah, blah, blah. So you hang out with your friend in the fridge. Anybody? Right? We're tired. Oh God, I have to study for this test. I hate this subject. Give me some Doritos. Anybody? Yeah? Sad he didn't call. He doesn't love me anymore. Where is the chocolate? What about stress? Ah! My roommate is driving me crazy! Anybody have one of those other roommates ever? Come on. Yeah, be free. Let it out. Popcorn. Candy cane, right? Whatever it is. What about, oh, whoops, wrong lecture. Just wanted to see if you guys are still with me. All right, good. Yeah, and then this is my favorite. What do you call it? What about unconscious eating? How many of you eat an entire carton of Ben & Jerry's watching Glee or Dexter? Right? The show is over and you're like, who ate my food? What the hell? Yeah. So I only get, a short time with you today, but I love to come to schools and talk about mindfulness. And we talk about centering and breath. I don't believe in diets. I believe in changing the way you relate to food and eat to food. So everybody take the chocolate that you have, the last chocolate, people in the middle, and we're going to take 20 minutes, I'm just kidding, 2 minutes to eat this Hershey's Kiss. I want you to put it on your tongue and not chew it, just let it melt. Just let it melt. And just notice, and if you didn't get a chocolate, come by the booth, we can do this experiment at the booth. We weren't able to pass them out to everybody. So just notice how you relate to this chocolate. Notice if you would have already had 2 by now for the bag. How many people stress eat, gobble, eat? Yeah, I can shovel. Just notice who you become around food. So when I come to school, I do a whole thing with carrots, with chips, with chocolate. It's really fun. And you just start to look at how you relate to food and eating. And if you have anxiety or control, or if you grew up in a big family where you had to get your share of the pie. So we talk about all of that stuff. So when you leave here today, ask yourself, am I truly hungry? And if the answer is yes, go for it. Whatever it is, enjoy it. Sit down, don't text, and eat, right? And if the answer is I'm not sure, ask yourself, what am I trying to feed? Maybe you need some water. Maybe you need to sleep because you're tired. Maybe you need to connect with somebody who's loving. And you need some emotional support more than whatever you're reaching for. Now, these women had everything, but now they're not here, This is my niece, Avery. And, one of the reasons I love to go around the world and sharing my story is that I hope that we can help stop eating disorders and the shame about it and just the weirdness we have around food as a society. And I'm so delighted to be here in Northern Plains. The first 20 schools who book me, I will bring books as part of the package for anybody who comes to your event. I just had this published. It's all about how to avoid addictions in college, Student Survival Guide, and it's fun. It has some inspiring quotes, and I'm all proud. I've been working on it for 2 years. So anybody who books me the first 20 schools, I'll throw this in too. So anyway, thanks. My name's Elaine. Here's to your help. Come by and see me with, Joey Evans. Yes, thank you. What she said. All right, thanks you guys.